We are live at the Buell Bar in downtown Detroit. That means one thing, it's Friday, and that means it's time for the Friday Fahles, our weekly roundup of the news, with a bit of a comedic bent, if we're funny at all, which is never a guarantee on this show, but that's okay. I have two great guests with me today. Greg Bowens is here. Of course, he is a longtime PR consultant, former spokesperson for Detroit Mayor Dennis Archer, as a matter of fact, and a longtime friend. Greg, welcome back.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure. Nancy Kaffer is here as well, of course. Nancy is a columnist at the Detroit Free Press and a member of the editorial board at the Free Press and a frequent follier. Thank you for being here as well.
Greg and I are always funny, Craig. I don't know if you can pull your weight.
I wasn't.
Right, yeah.
Greg and
I will do my best. I will do my best. And Greg, you handle a lot of PR work and occasionally some crisis communications when need be. I think there's this gentleman in Chicago that might need your help right now. A man named Jesse Smollett. Of course, he was just it was announced this morning that he is not going to be on the last two episodes of the season for Empire. He's been kicked off the show for, of course, now he's been arrested for filing a false police report and getting everybody all riled up about an alleged racial attack that did not take place. Not exactly a good strategy to get a raise.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah, well, I'm sorry, but when you pay off the dudes who are attacking you with a check.
Right. Allegedly paid off the dudes.
Allegedly.
Well, allegedly. Innocent until proven guilty, but at the same time, we certainly rushed to judgment on what happened.
We're just saving you from a lawsuit, man.
As one of my Facebook friends pointed out, I don't think he wrote hoax on the for line. So, there's a check. They'll have to prove
Could have been for training.
They'll have to prove that that's what it was for in a court of law. That's why we have a court of law. He's been accused of these crimes that he allegedly committed. Just like the men allegedly committed against him.
Well, you know what?
Yeah. And like I said, everybody rushed to judgment on that. We were so ready to believe that, though.
I wasn't.
I didn't. I have to be honest. I didn't.
It's like, who goes to Subway at 2 a.m? Really?
I didn't follow the story very well.
Right, exactly. It was like 24-hour Subway they got there in Chicago.
Might be. You never know. I'm not sure, but I can think of a lot of things I'd rather eat at 2 o'clock in the morning. Than
Exactly.
Subway.
And you're rich. You know what I'm saying?
Well, but apparently he wasn't rich enough because allegedly he did this as a way to get a raise from his bosses at the show.
This is what's crazy about the story. Is because the first story had some stuff that made you go, that's weird.
Right.
And now the second version of the story has some stuff that makes you go, that's weird.
I know.
So it's like the second version isn't like less weird than the first version. And I think this is one of those where it's going to be interesting to see what comes out in the court case. Because it's again, the idea that you would stage an attack and that would somehow boost your salary, that's crazy.
Nothing about this makes any sense at all.
No, exactly.
Well, I mean, you become like a media figure, in the cast. You become the person that everybody's turning the Empire to watch in some kind of way.
Yeah.
And but I mean, you have to be pretty narcissistic to want to do this. And maybe he just didn't have a real understanding of the impact that this kind of thing would have. You know what I mean?
Well,
allegedly.
I think the thing about this that ticks me off the most, though, is it's given Donald Trump an opportunity to play the victim card here, and that's the thing. That you can never have a situation where you allow that to happen because now he's like, look at these poor MAGA people who are getting this kind of abuse and all this sort of stuff. And the other thing about it that was funny to me was how many politicians had put things out on their Twitter feed, or one of their handlers put something out on their Twitter feed that are now sort of having to backtrack all this, deleted tweets everywhere, but everybody has screen captures of all that kind of stuff.
But here's an important thing to remember. There are a lot of hate crimes in this country.
Absolutely.
Every day there are hate crimes.
This undermines a lot of those.
But also the idea that when someone reports a hate crime, people believe them isn't mean that they're flawed or that they were too ready to believe it, because this is a thing that happens often. And I'll also say, you may have heard some issues with Chicago and policing and race. A couple issues.
Sure.
So, I mean, there's not for someone to believe that this attack happened as reported doesn't mean that they were too credulous or that they were too eager to make a certain case. We have a lot of hate crimes in this country, and they're growing. The number is growing. So this is not. It wasn't crazy for people to believe this happened. I have to be honest. I didn't follow this story too closely beyond the headlines when it first came out because. It's distressing and whatever. And I just it's not something that I really followed too closely, and I didn't really, now you kind of can't escape the story. It's everywhere, so it's.
Well, I mean,
that's the thing. Anytime you give Donald Trump and those folks the opportunity to play the victim, it becomes, on top of what we normally have in terms of people crying wolf when it's not true, right? And so that undermines so many things on so many different levels, whether you're African American, whether you're gay, all that stuff. Where, like you said, real things do happen. And in the meantime, we've got some guy who's an officer in the Coast Guard who was plotting to shoot and kill people.
Yeah, and that's some pretty serious stuff.
Yeah.
But also this one, if this allegedly false incident,
right.
we don't have to let it undermine the legitimate hate crimes that some people will try to use that, but we don't have to let that happen.
Well, Fox News, it's been their #1 story for the last few days, and they've been using it as a vehicle to sit there and say, this was a hoax,
right.
All this stuff is overblown, when in reality what we are seeing is indeed a spike in the actual numbers of hate crimes and inspired attacks.
Friday Fahles podcast listeners, here's your talking point. There is a spike in the number of hate crimes happening in this country. Hate crimes are reported to police every day. They're likely underreported. And when someone challenges you on this, say, look, one allegedly false incident doesn't undermine the fact that we have lots of hate crimes that happen in this country every day and that they're on the rise. There's your talking point, folks. Say that to your friends at the bar. You'll sound informed.
I mean, what's interesting about this, too, is that this is almost like a bad script. You know what I mean? It's almost like something that you would write for a TV show on Empire, a scene on Empire. And now the way that it's unfolding, you have to wonder about this guy's mental state.
Well, that's the thing. It's so crazy that anyway, but it's so crazy that either there's going to be something that we find out happened in his mental background, behavioral health issue of some kind, or we're going to find out that there's yet another twist in the story that we haven't.
Well, there's always going to be more. I mean, once people start testifying and start talking about, when and where and how and all that stuff. I mean, the two Nigerian guys, it's going to be interesting to hear, what they have to say about it. And why would you get involved in it? Is that you had no idea about the serious consequences that would happen?
The whole thing's crazy.
$3,500, man. People are desperate for money. They'll do things like that.
Well, yeah,
I don't know.
Well, they got a free. I don't know how much it costs to fly to Nigeria from Chicago, but I'm sure that $3,500.
There's a prince over there that's going to fund it, right?
Had to go. I don't know.
I always get those emails. There's some prince over there that wants to give his money.
The $3,500, and then what is it? One of those Travelocity rewards pops up, and they go all right, we can go home. I don't know.
But then they came back.
But then they came back, right?
So I don't know. It's all very weird.
To get the rest of the money, I heard it was $500 allegedly.
Interesting though, this is taking up all the bandwidth out there. In reality, though, there's a lot of stuff going on around Donald Trump right now. I mean, we're now expecting the Mueller report could be sometime in the next week or so.
This is how the Mueller report is going to look. Redacted.
That's exactly it.
We will see nothing. It'll be a black screen.
There's that. We've got the state of emergency that he didn't have to declare, which is a really
this took that off the
take
front
on
page,
an emergency.
Right.
There's a lot of other stuff to talk about. It's like eyes on the prize, folks. Let's keep our eyes right on the real stuff that's happening, that's undermining our government. And
the idea, the guy that used to be the former FBI guy that wrote a book, what's his name? Yeah, and he's running around and he's saying, Donald Trump actually could be a Russian asset. Now that is deep. And now he's got the codes.
One guy who indeed...
Now Putin has the codes. What are we going to do?
Just in case you could sleep.
Right, this is right.
Well, one guy who has not stopped talking about this in his own defense is Roger Stone, of course, who was a one-time campaign
You're not really going to defend
Donald
that guy,
Trump.
are you?
Defend the guy? Absolutely not. Basically,
you said in his defense. I'm like, no.
You see Craig's Nixon tattoo.
You got a Nixon tattoo?
No.
Roger Stone has
Roger Stone's tattoo.
My
eyes! I can't.
He's got a big Nixon tattoo on his back, but he basically got a gag order from the judge.
Nixon's face. Speaking of gagging, right in the middle of his back.
Wow,
it's pretty big.
Yeah,
that's a lot of pain for Dick Nixon. Sorry.
I know, right?
But Roger Stone, gag order. He's not allowed to talk about it anymore. He was going all over cable news talking about things. Then, of course, he puts an Instagram post that is a picture of the judge who is overseeing his case with a crosshair on it. And then he said the other day in this weird testimony, I don't know if you saw any of this stuff or read any of it, He's like, well, I didn't know what that symbol meant.
He said it was a Celtic symbol.
Or maybe in the occult, but I don't know the occult, so I don't know what it was.
And that it was randomly selected.
By somebody who has access to his phone, which nobody has access to my phone.
Putin does.
The theme of this conversation is...
That's a joke, folks.
The theme of this, allegedly.
Allegedly.
That's right.
The theme of this conversation is people with very, very weird explanations for things they did.
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
This is like, This is the reaction of the week is, Yeah, I don't know how you can say, I put a picture randomly of the judge who it just happened to have a thing that looked like a crosshairs, but it was just a crazy coincidence.
It's just a random picture that somebody had sent me that I had on my phone for some reason.
I guess he was just trying to give her an Irish blessing.
What is that? What it was? Really? Sort of like one of those friendship rings things with the two hands coming together.
I mean, what?
The heart.
It's crazy. Yeah, say it with me.
Well, anybody want to take bets on how long he stays out of the media? If he can actually comply with it?
End of day.
Well, he took off for Florida immediately after this because he's lucky he's not in jail, and the judge said as much. Open your mouth again,
Florida.
I'm going to put you in jail.
That's not a weird place to go.
Well, we'll get into Florida a little bit later. Florida makes a triumphant return to the Friday Follies today, so that's a big deal. It's been a couple of weeks since I had any Florida news, because Florida Man is always a story, right?
I know, right?
Florida Man. So we'll get into that a little later.
But I missed the chant. You know, every time he comes out of the courtroom, they go lock him up. You know, I wanted to see one more replay of that.
Yeah.
Well, he may. Well, let's get into politics here a little bit. Bernie Sanders announces his run, and of course, the Democrats are all freaking out, trying to figure out what they're going to do about Bernie this time around.
We are freaking out.
In the meantime, he's raising some serious cash. He's raising a lot of cash. He will be 79 years old if he's elected, which is not young. I remember when I was a kid and Ronald Reagan got elected, he was going to be 70 when he took office, and everybody thought that was just far too old for the job. Clearly, healthcare has improved a little bit since then, at least in terms of medical care. Not funding. Didn't say funding, everybody. But Bernie Sanders, I mean, like I said, the Democrats are freaking out about this. They don't know what to do with Bernie.
We never do. I mean, there's still, we had our convention a couple of weeks ago, our state convention a couple of weeks ago. I ran, the other lady won. Good job.
Hey, congratulations. Good.
Thank you.
You're good sports, sir.
But, the progressive wing, there's still that sort of like fight that goes on inside the Democratic Party between the Bernie bros and everybody else. You know what I mean? And there are people that are they're dying to see him in the race. And you folks might remember, we begged Bernie Sanders to get in the race in the first place because Hillary Clinton was too centrist, remember? We needed because she was going to run unopposed. And it was like, please, somebody get in the race and move her to the left. Bernie got in the race and burnt the house down. And now there's sort of like this permanent faction inside of the Democratic Party that has been fighting hard, and they have been getting power in the state Democratic Party. They now sit on the state central committee. They're on a bunch of the different district boards and stuff like that. The cannabis caucus, the progressive caucus. I mean, they're serious.
So here's two things that the faction that was pro-Bernie in 2016 said about Hillary. She's such a divisive candidate, and you're underestimating how much people dislike her. Here's what I would like to say to Bernie bros. He's a very divisive candidate, and you're underestimating how much people dislike him. I mean, there are a lot of people with real hard feelings about what happened in 2016. He has very high favorable ratings right now, but so did Hillary prior to the 2016 campaign, higher actually than his are now. Mm-hmm. There's a thing that happens when you go through a campaign where your favorable ratings don't tend to stay as exciting and shiny as they were before. And he is someone, again, there's a lot of animosity. A lot of people consider him one of the factors that led to Trump's win. And I don't think that Democrats, I don't know, a big lesson from 2016 is that people aren't going to start liking your candidate just because you think they ought to. That is a lesson that anyone who backed Hillary can tell you. People aren't going to start liking your candidate because you think they should. And that applies to Bernie. It's not just a Hillary lesson.
Also a lot more competition for the Bernie faction than there was last time around.
Yeah, I mean,
you've got a number of candidates that are espousing the exact same sort of ideas that he is, that I think are going to take a lot of the oxygen out of his balloon here. And I don't know if that's the right phrase. I'm mixing my metaphors here. But, it's not going to be as easy a path for him. It's not going to be a simple split between Hillary and Bernie this time around.
And here's a serious question. I realize we have set a very low bar for the office of the presidency right now, but regardless of the campaign, regardless of how effective he is at mobilizing people, regardless of how good he is at raising money, regardless of how good he is at throwing out progressive issues, do you see Bernie Sanders functioning as president of the United States? Do you feel like he would be an effective president? That's a question we have to bring back.
There needs to be some meat on the bones. I mean, you can say you want to do all this kind of stuff, but now people are like, all right, how are you going to do that?
Well, but now
you didn't have to last time.
Now because the landscape has changed, in part because of him pushing those issues out there, there can be more serious discussions about, these proposals. We really, as opposed to looking at it and saying college for everybody and then going like, oh hell, we're never going to be able to pay for that. How are we going to do that? Now we can have a discussion about it. We talk about free Medicaid for Medicare. Free healthcare, not Medicaid, healthcare for everybody. How does that look, and what kind of impact will that have on the system of people who depend on Medicaid right now, for example? And so, I look forward to seeing that kind of thing. But visioning Bernie Sanders as president, I kind of see Larry David.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, it's great. Larry David, I love that.
There are other very progressive candidates in the field who are also a little more...
Who are also actually Democrats, by the way.
Well, yeah, there's that.
I mean, that's a grudge that the Dems are going to hold on to for a little while.
But who also have been more effective, but who've also been more effective in their jobs, and who are more able to have more of a deeper think about policy.
Right.
I mean, I don't know. It's a crowded field. I expect a couple more people are going to announce before we're through here.
Yeah.
The first debates are in June.
Yeah, they're coming up.
Yeah. Ugh.
The NBC family of companies is going to have them all on.
I wish we had a law.
Shock.
I wish we had a law that this campaign couldn't start till January of 2020. Wouldn't that be nice?
I actually think that would be a good move. I would like to see a reduction in the amount of time they get to campaign as well.
It's just been like it's going to be a miserable 2 years.
Which one of these folks can insult better than Donald Trump?
It's a good question.
That's how he wins. He goes out and he
Beto O'Rourke
dogs everybody else out.
I noticed in the
You're not going to say Trump is sounding presidential now.
No.
Right? Whoa. Let's not get crazy here, folks. Come on now.
In the Kavanaugh hearings.
Yeah.
But
in the Kavanaugh hearings, I just want to say when the senators were questioning him, and Kavanaugh talked over a lot of the senators who were questioning him. I mean, it's particularly some of the female senators. I will say Cory Booker has something going for him, which is a very his voice like reverberates, like he's got a very deep,
you like that?
Yeah, and notice that it kind of cut through in the contentious Supreme Court hearings. It kind of cut through Kavanaugh, like screeching at him in a way that. So I'm going to say you may not have to beat Donald Trump on insulting if you have like a deep and impressive sounding voice.
Wait,
speaking
of Brett Kavanaugh,
and also Kamala Harris. She her prosecutorial technique really seemed to put Kavanaugh. There were a couple of people who stood out as when they spoke, and I'm not speaking at all to whether they should be president or whether they're a candidate that whatever. But I'm talking about people who, in a situation with someone who is very keyed up and flinging insults and sort of behaving disrespectfully. Kamala Harris and Cory Booker both, I thought, stood out for being able to kind of, and Mazie Hirono did too, I thought, but she's not running. But really kept control of the conversation and really stayed on target. And so you don't necessarily have to fight fire with fire, but you do have to bring your own brand of shutting it down to the table. And we saw that those guys were able to do it.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. Kamala, it's going to be hard for her because she was a prosecutor. You know what I mean? And it's
she's. And again, I'm not talking about their qualifications as a candidate, just in terms of their delivery. And they're not the only people who could bring that to the table. There's other people in the race who may have their own style. I'm using them as examples of how you can.
Can I ask a quick question?
To be the mean girl.
Can I ask a quick question though? Because one of the things that we're witnessing here right now is that you've got, of course, Bernie Sanders in the race, and you've got some people with definitely more left-leaning ideas, things like Medicare for all that kind of stuff, which some would term as like democratic socialism, right? And the Fox News crowd is running with socialists are running. We can't have socialism in America. We're not going to be Venezuela. And can we stop the comparisons between the United States and the possibility of maybe having a nationalized healthcare system with what's happening in Venezuela? At what point are we going to get sane about what these isms actually mean?
Yeah.
Never. We're never going to get sane about that.
No.
Good.
So, okay.
Well, we got to. It's got to happen.
Okay, but the average person. Okay. we are all kind of, in one way or another, in the business of thinking about politics, right?
Okay.
And thinking about policy and thinking about ideology.
Right.
And it matters a lot to us and people like us whether or not we're being ideologically consistent, whether our position on universal health care and Medicare and immigration and whatever, if they all have some sort of ideological consistency to them. I don't think this is normal. I think this is what happens when you're a specialist or quasi-specialist in a field. You know, the joke in 2009 of the person whose sign said, "Don't keep your socialized medicine off my Medicare."
Yeah.
I don't know, and it's like, oh, haha, let's laugh at that person. I don't, I think that the average person, and I don't think we should laugh at them for this. I think we should understand that everyone doesn't take an academic approach to government.
Right.
I think to the average person, you like the programs that you feel like help you, and you don't like the programs that you feel like hurt the programs that you need.
Or you don't use.
Or you don't use. And so as opposed to being like, oh, we have socialized programs in this country of fire departments, police departments, roads, Social Security, Medicare, pretty much anything where we collectively put money into a pot. Though, I mean, technically socialism is a whole separate thing.
Well, controlling the means of production, things along those lines.
Socialized
Yes.
amenities like what we have. I don't know that it does a lot of good to point out these things because again, it's human nature, and I don't think people who approach it this way again are to be mocked or like laughed at. It's just not everybody approaches this in the same way, and we have to respect that.
That's I agree
we do
with
need
you
to
on
get to
that.
some people that we can mock though here in just a couple of seconds because
Okay.
this is flying by, right?
Like mocking.
It goes really,
Mocking
really
is good.
fast.
Let's get onto the mockery.
So we need to get into some mockery here because I think there's some other stories that we need to talk about. You are a native Alabaman, correct?
Alabamian.
Alabamian? Is that what it is?
Alabamian.
Alabama gander?
Whatever.
Say that 10 times. I'm sorry.
You want to zoom in on the eye roll? I can do it again.
Yeah, sorry. And
You're going to get some crosshairs over there, buddy.
I'm not blaming her for this. But this guy writes a column in Alabama, some dinky little paper that he's been in charge of since 1964, the year of the Civil Rights Act. This guy's been running this little paper in Alabama. The Democrat Reporter in Linden, Alabama. I have no idea where Linden is, by the way. I mean, exactly.
Me either. I don't know.
But the guy's name is...
I can't Bama. I'm from Alabama, so he's going to try to make me Bama-splain this.
No, I'm not. This guy's name is Goodloe Sutton, which is a good old Southern name.
That's an Alabama name. I'm not going to lie.
Goodloe?
But he basically wrote a column that said it was time for the Klan... His column was entitled "Time for the Ku Klux Klan to Night Ride Again." This guy writes this paper, and he said, this is great. If we could get the Klan to go up there and clean out D.C., we'd all be better off. And then some people asked him about it, and he said that the KKK, they only killed but a few people. That was a direct quote. Only killed but a few people. And he didn't consider it a violent group. He said they're more like the NAACP. Well, I should let you know that Greg Bowens is the head of the Grosse Pointe chapter of the NAACP
Well, my term just ended last month.
did it?
Yeah.
Well, hey, you got
Founding
it started.
president.
You got it started, which is not a small deal. But
right.
that's gotta burn a little bit. The KKK is like the NAACP. My ass, people.
I know.
Don't let anybody feed you that kind of crap ever. It's not the same thing. It's not even close to the same thing. And most sane people would recognize that. But the fact that there's still people out there doing this kind of crap is ridiculous.
This is a person.
People. There are people out there.
I think this guy's,
we saw them in Charlottesville.
This guy's nuts.
We did see him in Charlottesville.
Okay, but people likening the NAACP and the Ku Klux Klan. There are not a lot of people doing it.
Probably not a lot.
This guy's nuts, man. And
he's clearly nuts.
Someone on Twitter posted other editorials he's written. It seems to be he seems crazy and gross and awful and old. I mean, and his stuff is like...
That's why it's important to own your own paper. Henry Ford knew this back in the day.
He wrote an editorial encouraging in 2016, encouraging people to vote for the real American, not the Ivy League social climber, which I guess he meant...
Barack Obama?
It's 2016.
Oh, 2016.
I'm sorry, did I say the wrong date? Saying, I thought the Ivy League social climber was Trump, but apparently he meant Hillary.
Well, wait, he did go to the Wharton School, didn't he? That's technically...
He went to Barber School? Is that what you said?
The Wharton School.
Wharton. Yeah. That was a social promotion.
Yeah, but apparently he meant the Ivy League social climber with a lust for money. He meant Hillary. It was apparently.
Oh, wow.
I would have read that to mean Trump, but whatever.
Not the guy with the gold toilets in his private plane.
And then he wrote another editorial thanking Russia if they had anything to do with defeating Hillary, because he thought that was a good move, and whoever helped, thanked them, and so go Russia. So I mean, this guy is This guy is.
But how does this kind of thing get promoted in the media? I mean, how does it gain traction? You just pointed out he wrote a lot of stuff. I think the Russians are behind it again. I really do. They have never stopped.
I think what happened
Those
is
are bots pushing that story.
It came across the desk of someone at the paper in Montgomery, which I guess is close to this place.
Yeah.
And then I don't know. Probably
but they wouldn't go, oh, that's old
it.
Goodlow. He's just crazy. Don't pay any attention to him.
I think probably. I mean, but
clicks. Everybody wants clicks, man.
We don't control the story anymore either, though. Someone could put it out on Twitter.
That's true.
You know,
right.
someone could post it on Facebook or TikTok.
This is the reason why we need journalism, so that we can. Somebody needs to do an investigative story on that guy and really get them out there.
See, in Alabama, you got a situation where this guy writes this column saying it's time for the KKK to rise up again to take care of Washington, whatever the heck that means.
Right.
But then on the other end of the spectrum of maybe being a little bit too freaked out about things, the Detroit City Council. Yeah. You know, decides to cancel the Autorama auto jump because it's going to be the Smokey and the Bandit car this year, and apparently it had a Confederate flag on the front license plate thing.
Right.
So they nixed the whole thing rather than just take the plate off. I mean, you could do that, I suppose.
Well, I mean, maybe they wouldn't.
Well, no, the whole car it's got, you know how the car looks.
No, that's the General Lee from Dukes of Hazzard.
Yeah,
this is the Smokey and the Bandit Firebird Trans Am, the black one with the gold
I've
thing.
never seen
it had a Confederate flag on the front license
like,
plate thing.
Okay.
Good.
But good. I'm sorry, the car jump is a cool thing that they do out there.
Tear down all the statues and crush all the Smokey and the Bandit cars. That's what I say.
I've never seen Smokey and the Bandit.
You haven't seen Smokey?
No, I would agree that.
Burt Reynolds, Sally Field, come on now.
Not even a rerun.
No, sorry guys.
It was a big thing in the 70s.
I'm gonna say
you weren't around for that
agree. There's no place for the Confederate flag.
No.
A lady from Alabama is here to tell you there's no place for the Confederate flag.
Oh, so now you're speaking for all of Alabama?
Yes.
Alabama
She's Bama's playing it for you now.
Now I'm going to Bama's playing it. Well, and also though, Michigan, let's get right with the Lord on this because I see Confederate flags all over
absolutely.
the place.
Oh my God.
In Michigan, and
well, Kid Rock.
What even is that?
Kid Rock from suburban Detroit. Confederate flags all over
It's the
stuff.
lie that people are trying to tell that the Civil War was about states' rights and all this stuff.
I saw a T-shirt for sale on Mackinac Island.
Did you?
That said, with the Confederate flag, that said, if this flag makes you angry, you don't know history. I complained to the I told the manager, like, I was going to buy something. I didn't buy a T-shirt for my kid while I'm up there. I think if I was going to buy T-shirts for my souvenir T-shirts here.
And he's selling it. He's selling it underneath Fort Mackinac, right? There's a fort on the hill overlooking that was part of the Union.
And I was there. It wasn't for the annual policy conference, but I was up there for the biannual Republican conference. So I mean, this is like a lot of people on this island all the time. And this guy is like, "Hey, I'm going to sell this gross T-shirt."
Well, we know the flag and the statues were all built up in the before the Civil Rights, and particularly during the Civil Rights era, as a response to people trying to exercise their civil rights, you know?
Sure.
Yeah.
So,
and also, like, the people who say that it's about Southern heritage and it's not just about, no, it's not. And sometimes it doesn't matter how you personally feel about a symbol because it just doesn't stand for that.
Well, it's not always about you. It's about what the other person feels.
It's not, but the fact,
think about that for just a second.
The fact is that this flag is connected. It was created by the Confederacy,
right?
And you can't, like, if you feel like it's about something else, you're wrong,
right?
Because it's about.
Well,
like this is not like, I mean, this is what it is.
Why couldn't they just put the American flag on the front of the license plate?
Yeah.
Good
Painted
question.
blue and
good
white,
question.
and, you know.
So let's stay down south for a little bit, but on some of the goofier stuff, because this is Florida. A Florida man, again, Florida man, this is how you start these, was arrested. He got in a fight with his girlfriend, and he got arrested for throwing a burrito at her face.
Hey, you know, that's...
I'm sorry, I like burritos. I don't think I'd want to do that. I can't imagine what made me so angry that I needed to throw a burrito.
Well, you would have to let go of your burrito.
Yeah. You would have to let that go, right?
To get my burrito, he pried from my cold, dead fingers. And the other story from Florida...
Well, why? I mean, but that's still assault.
Yeah.
If I throw this phone at you and bing you in the head with it,
yeah,
right.
That would hurt a lot more than a burrito, probably.
It depends on what's in it.
It's just
It's Florida after all. Right? Was it frozen or was it cooked?
And if it was Chipotle, it could be a biohazard too.
I think you should.
There you go.
I think you should gently pass a burrito to someone you love.
That's there you go. Yeah. Okay, this is in Georgia. This is in Georgia. Guy got in a fight with his family over a box of Cheez-Its.
Yeah.
So he locks them in the house, pours gasoline on the front porch, and lights the house on fire. His mother had to escape from a second-floor window. The guy burnt the house down over a box of freaking Cheez-Its, man.
It couldn't have been because of that. It had to be something leading up to.
Greg, it's because he was crazy.
Yeah.
That's exactly it.
Mental
But
illness
I like
is
that
for
one.
Let's
real,
go to the
folks.
response of the week. Huh.
Right. You got to be crazy to do something like that.
Yeah, of course.
And
but-
there's got to be way more to the story. But I mean, these are
is there any other snack food?
Gladys family
Is there
wasn't
any
hurt.
other snack food that can incite that much excitement than a box of Cheetos? Because I'm not sure there is a more perfect snack food than Cheez-Its.
This is the clickbait that this is the society that we're in now. This is what goes for news. You know, there's a deeper story there. We all know it, right?
Well, but I have to dig this stuff up in the deep recesses of the news world. Friday.
Yeah,
Fahles.
right.
This is not
Google
just
5
out there.
minutes. Google Cheez-Its and fire.
Cheez-Its, Georgia.
We
It'll
could
be
be
there.
discussing my column this week about a Detroit Future Cities report on the state of the African American middle class in Detroit, but
This is the Friday Follies, though, Nancy. We'll actually have you on my regular show to talk about that kind of stuff.
You should.
I will. I actually thought.
Was
that
there something
really
funny about it? Because we could talk about it.
No. Nothing serious.
Have you guys seen this one? This was proof that the.
Well, what's funny about a man burning his house down with people inside? That's not funny.
Well, the fact that the fight
That's
was
true.
over a box of Cheez-Its.
Yeah, they could have died.
Well, they could have, but they didn't. They all lived.
What if this
Thank
was
God.
staged? No, never mind.
What if he paid?
Yeah, did he pay them? Did he pay them? All right, this is a sign that the dorks are truly taking over.
Now we're dorks. Watch out,
In
because we're
France,
sci-fi
in
people.
France, I love sci-fi. I mean,
Okay.
trust me,
all
I'm
right.
a Trekkie.
waiting for
I-
Game of Thrones.
I'm a
That's
Star
the last.
Well,
the thing
she's
that's-
all over that stuff. I know.
waiting for.
But
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you know, I've got a problem because we have Dish Network and they're in a dispute with HBO and they have canceled their
You can
stuff.
get the little app.
I'm gonna have to do something because I'm gonna have to watch this
$10
one
a
because I
month.
don't want to listen to all of you guys talking about these episodes and not being able to
$10 a
join
month.
in.
I just
You can
can't. I
afford
can't
it.
wait.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
But I'm already
That's good.
paying
I
for
know,
that stuff.
right?
Anyway, but
Too bad. I
French.
can't watch Star Trek.
The French people that oversee fencing have now accepted lightsaber duels as an official part of the fencing world now.
Well, that would be interesting if you could actually stab somebody with a lightsaber, you know?
But lightsaber dueling has become an official sport in France, and that's kind of interesting. And apparently, there's something about the way that you have to do it. So it has to like go behind your back or something. You're not allowed to just, you know,
Just
you're not,
swing
You're not allowed
wildly.
to just swing wildly. No. And
Can you
so-
use the force?
Yeah, apparently. Is the force allowed? That's the
Can you
thing.
use the force? Penalty
Parry, dodge, spin.
for force choke.
That's right. That's right. But apparently, you have to do it the way that they
Okay.
do it in the movies. So.
All right.
Now that would be
What do you
really
think?
cool. I think that would be fun.
I don't care.
No, you don't care.
Sorry,
Come on.
I don't care.
Really?
I thought it was
I have
kind
no
of funny.
opinion on this. Star Wars is, I mean,
You're not a Star Wars fan?
I was, and then we got, crappy movie after. Did you see the
Oh,
Did
you don't
see
like
the-
it for the new generation, huh?
No, did you? I thought
I saw
that-
Solo. I liked it. It was
Oh,
entertaining.
Solo was bad.
Awful.
Solo was
It
bad.
Rogue One.
awful.
Rogue One is the best
Rogue
of all
One
the Star
was
Wars
was
movies.
good.
Best one.
The Force Awakens was good. The Last Jedi was like,
Yeah.
what? Like they went on this whole weird sideline off to this casino planet thing
Right,
where
right.
it was totally didn't matter. It was
Right.
immaterial. There was the whole thing with the weird lactating sea beast thing.
Yeah,
there
yeah.
was like
Yeah.
there was the whole weird like
The projection
All right,
thing, and he sort of like disappears.
It went into the
and-
whole thing with the black mirrors. It was like the scene from Legend where Mia
We've
Sara
got
gets
2 minutes
whatever.
here, so we're gonna end then on a Star Wars note.
On a Star Wars
Since
note.
we've all seen
The
all
whole
of the movies,
experience has been
May the
soured
Force
for
be
me.
with you.
should they just end it?
Yes.
End it now. It's time
Yes.
for the franchise to go away.
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
No?
No. It's not time for it to end.
Yes.
There's so much meaning. It relates so much to the world today. We have our own new sort of incarnation of Darth Vader and,
Well, but the
you know,
other thing is when we
a
can-
crumbling republic.
We have
and-
this thing now in movies where the only movies that get made are sequels to or franchises, like the Marvel hegemony that like.
Yeah, but those are at least pretty good.
No, oh my God!
Some
what
of them
movies
are
are
pretty
you
good.
watching?
I
Those
like
movies
Thor.
are hot garbage.
I like the Thor movies.
Hot garbage.
Hot garbage.
Hot garbage for
Wow.
people who find emotional substance in the writings of 12-year-olds. I love comic books; those ones stink.
Yeah.
So,
Wow.
so we got the Marvel hegemony in the movie making universe. We have the Star Wars thing, and in the meantime, there's new and interesting work that's getting produced that doesn't ever get elevated to the level of being a TV show or a movie because people just want to see the same thing over and over again.
Well, I think they
There's-
should make The Expanse into a movie. That would be good.
Yeah, sure. There's
That would be good. Do you ever watch it?
there is work being created right now that is new and exciting science fiction.
Right.
that gets, kind of crowded out of this. We've got Game of Thrones, and then there's going to be a Game of Thrones prequel and a Game of Thrones spin-off on HBO, which gives it the prestige treatment. There's a wonderful African-American science fiction writer, a woman named N.K. Jemisin, who wrote a series called The Broken Earth that is great, got picked up by TNT for a show, which is wonderful that it got picked up for a show, but wouldn't it be cool if she got picked up by Showtime or HBO? I mean, I hope it's a long-running show that does amazingly. And I hope TNT does a great job with it. But like, we're seeing this thing where new and emerging people are getting kind of not as many opportunities because we have more of the same being cranked out by
but now we have the Space Force. The president's given us Space Force, so we've got ground zero for new exciting work. Is that what you were talking about?
Space Force gets up and running. I can't wait till we get the John Wayne style Green Berets type movie about the Space Force.
Right.
All right, we got to wrap it up. Nancy, I know you've got an interview to do.
I'm late for an interview. I hope she's not.
Is that right? Netflix
let me finish the show.
I hope she's not watching
everybody.
right now, wondering why I'm not calling her.
Well, because
we
got to do it. All right, we're going to let Nancy actually go do some journalism. She's got to go do that kind of stuff. Greg's going to go do what he's got to do. I've got a little bit of editing to do myself. Thank you both, Nancy Caff, Greg Bullens, for being with us for the Friday Follies today. Thank you for watching. Appreciate the comments, everybody. And we're going to come up with new ways to stream this so more and more people can check it out. But I do appreciate everybody being here. This has been the Craig Folly Show on Deadline Detroit. Happy Friday. Have a fantastic weekend. And lots to talk about next week. I guarantee you that. Keep your hats on because it's going to get a little bit nasty in the next couple of weeks.
We love Deadline Detroit.
You were pretty funny, Craig.
I think, yeah. You're pretty good, man.
Thank you.